We're going to talk about AI, and I don't know about you, but every time I hear that someone's going to talk about AI, a little part of me goes, "Oh no," because we're hearing so much about it, especially in the creative industry. People are kind of either just sort of freaking out or thinking it's going to bring on the robot apocalypse or it's going to fix everything. And I think the real answer is none of those things. So this is a presentation I originally gave to a group of business owners in Billericay a couple of weeks ago, and I've not changed much of it because a lot of the talks I've given at TCC have been around very specific things, not often about creativity, but around specific points. I've never actually given a talk that's just about business as a whole, but we are all business owners, so I thought I would roll this one out for you. So first of all, AI is here. We can't ignore it. We can't put our heads in the sand. You know, even if you've been trying to stay out of its way for the last 18 months, you probably now can't. It's being thrust upon us, quite frankly. Does anyone here use Google Workspace? Okay, Jude. So about a year ago, Google said, "Hey, we've got this thing called Gemini, and we're going to give it to you for free for 3 months because you'll really love it. And then if you want to keep it, we'll charge you extra." And I think everyone got it, went, "Well, that's bizarre, doesn't really do anything." And it just went away again. Then about 4 months ago, it just popped up again. And then Google sent out an email a few weeks ago going, "We're going to put up your workspace pricing rate just to reflect the fact you've now got Gemini." Like literally nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted it. And I believe Microsoft has done more or less the same thing with Copilot in Microsoft 365. Yeah. Which you can get rid of if you just tell them you don't want it, and they'll reduce your billing back down. Know someone through networking who's an IT consultant. He said that's the bulk of his work at the moment is people trying to reduce how much they actually pay Microsoft. So regardless of industry, it's here. And what are we going to do with it? Come on, slides. There we go. So there's a lot of information in these slides. Don't worry about reading them. I've not designed them to be kind of one of those death by PowerPoint things where people just read everything on the slides, but I have deliberately put a lot of extra information in here for you to read afterwards. So at the end of this presentation, Marv, I'll send you the slides if that's all right, so you can distribute. Yep, brilliant. So the idea is these slides are kind of an aid memoir. You know, they're just a little reminder of some of the things that we're going to discuss. Now, I want to look at some of the dangers of AI at the moment, and I'm not going to dwell on AI nicking content and stuff. That's a far bigger discussion than we have time for today. But the same, I want you to consider if someone's offering you an AI solution, I want you to consider what they stand to gain from it and what sort of language they use around it. Because I'm seeing a lot of the same language used for AI as was used for SEO 20, even 15 years ago. And this is the magic pill scenario, the idea that a new technology will revolutionize your world without requiring any effort on your part at all. You know, just simply empty your wallet in my direction and everything will become magical. We call this the grifter approach. It always happens with any new technology. You know, everybody, there'll always be a group of people who offer that quick fix, who just say, "Hey, we're going to make it really easy." The biggest problem with that approach is it doesn't take into account you as human beings, but also it doesn't take into account how brilliant your business already is. Has anyone here got a shit business? No, I'm glad no one put that hands up there now. Well, there are a couple of people I can't see, but no, that would have been weird. So AI, as with a lot of things in business, it can only amplify excellence. It can't conjure brilliance out of absolutely nothing. And if anybody tells you that AI is going to change that, then they're a grifter and they should be disregarded. The reason is that the personality of your business, how you speak to people, how you feel about certain parts of your business, how you look after people, these are all unique to you and to your business. Whether you're one person or whether you've got a small team of people, then the culture in your business is a real thing that's generated by all your life's experiences and all the little touch points and all the things that inspire you and frustrate you. And that I don't think will ever be replaced by AI. And because of all those little touch points generating the culture and the personality of your business, there's no way pressing a button on a magic AI thing is going to replicate that. It just can't. I'm just going to try and stop my Mac from telling me what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. It was a real shock when I moved from Microsoft to Apple because Apple products just go, hey, look what we're doing. It's good, isn't it? Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Right. One good way to think about AI is think of it as being like an apprentice. I don't know if anyone in here actually has an apprentice, or has anyone here worked as an apprentice? Okay, nor have I, which is a makes it an unusual choice for me to use this analogy. But when I've given this talk in rooms full of people, that have plumbers, electricians, and whatever, this apprentice approach really lands with them because the idea of having an apprentice is they're 16 years old or whatever, and the first day they come in, you wouldn't just dump your entire workload on them. You wouldn't do that to a new employee either. You wouldn't just say, right, here's everything I had on my list of things to do today. I'm going to go play golf or go for a swim or skateboard or make bad noises on guitars or whatever. You just wouldn't do that. So it doesn't matter which AI you're going to use. And I'm going to very broadly talking about AI in terms of LLMs here. So ChatGPT, Claude, um, the many, many other types. So I'm just using AI as just a generic term. The way you'd start with a new member of staff is you'd start with simple tasks to check that they understand and check that their motivations reflect your motivations and all those cultural things again. And that's really the best way to start using AI. I'm guessing everyone here has at least had a go at ChatGPT or something like that. Show of hands. Yeah, this is really encouraging because even just 3 months ago, when I asked that question, very few people would put their hands up. There was still a lot of fear around it, and there's nothing really to be afraid of if you just treat it sensibly and treat it not gingerly, but cautiously, in the same way you would any other new aspect to your business. You don't just run at stuff face first. I've done that. It really hurts. So there's a number of fears that people have. One of the biggest ones that concerns me at the moment is businesses not adopting AI or adopting it too quickly because they're afraid of being left behind. I think rushing into these things, you're probably kind of getting that I'm a little risk averse when it comes to this. Rushing into it is a mistake. Don't worry about being left behind. You're not going to miss the boat with this. I think it's here forever now. It's not going to go away. And the early adopters and the super geeks like me, we enjoy being, first at the front of the queue for a lot of these things. But because we're always first at the front of the queue, it means we've learned the hard way the mistakes you can make if you just kind of welcome new technology into your life. So don't rush. Don't look at this presentation and think, right, that's it. I've got to completely revolutionize my business. The reality is you could probably leave it another couple of years and you'd be all right. Yeah, we're creatives. This isn't make or break. There are some businesses I work with who deal with a lot of data, like accountants, for example. And right now, if they're not fully adopting AI to help them, they are already behind. But as we're creatives, it's our brains the best thing about us. So don't go charging in. You're far better off being strategic about the way where you adopt AI. One of the other things I hear quite often when I speak to people is they're worried that adopting AI is going to remove the humanity from their business. And I mentioned before that we're all freelance, we're in very, very small teams. So the relationships we have with our clients are very personal. We're not working in Sainsbury's and seeing thousands of people kind of traipse in and out of our shops. The reality is that if you start to automate some of your processes and allow AI to do some of the heavy lifting on the more mundane tasks, you'll find it actually frees up more of your time so you can be more human with your clients. At the moment, I've noticed that as we increasingly adopt AI here at YesEO, our meetings are actually getting longer and we're not rushing to get to the point when we communicate with our clients. So it frees you up. There's also, I think, quite a natural fear about people losing their jobs. I mean, unfortunately, that is going to happen. It's it's another leap forward, the same as when all the people with shovels lost their jobs when JCBs came along. I'm kind of guessing at history here. I can't think of a better analogy, really. But where the opportunity that we have as business owners here is to identify the people in our teams who are good at what they do and realize that taking some of the tasks away from them with AI doesn't mean that you've got to get rid of them. It means that they now have the opportunity to kind of go up a step. I was explaining this to a designer I sometimes work with recently, and I was saying that if you have a great deal of experience as a designer, then yes, some people are going to use Canva for things, and they're going to use other AI tools to create things, but they still don't have your experience. So if you elevate yourself up, one of my ideas was that designers could become assessors of design work. So perhaps if you can't stop some small design tasks being done by AI, you can position yourself as someone that can let people know whether the output of the AI is crap or not. Because well, we've probably all seen the output from these AI design tools, and it's quite frankly bloody awful. And positioning yourself as a brand protector might not be a bad idea. It's just one that came to me in the top of my head, but it's another example of, okay, well, you've got your skills, step up, go up the chain, sort of go up the ladder, rather than kind of worrying too much about being made redundant. None of us are going to be made redundant. And come the robot apocalypse, I hope I don't regret saying that. There's a lot of concern as well over how complex AI can be. It can be as complex or as simple as you want. It's like saying that, mobile phones are complex. Well, it can be if you want them to be, or they can be very, very simple. There's some quite natural concerns around privacy. If you're paying to use an AI tool, you can be reasonably sure that your content is safe. If you pay for ChatGPT, for example, there's a little thing pops up at the bottom that says nothing you input will be used to teach the model, to teach the AI. I believe that about 95%. There's a little 5% that the reality is companies like OpenAI, the owners of ChatGPT, they don't fully understand what can happen. So a good way of protecting yourself is just to sanitize things before you put them in. So a good example of this I can give you is we work a lot with spreadsheets at SEO, and a lot of time that will have either our client data on it, or it'll have details of their customers or clients. So we just anonymize that column before processing anything in AI, because if it's not gone in, it can't come back out. There are some AI models that people are more risk averse to. We use one called Manus, which is an agentic AI. So it goes out and does stuff. And that one is Chinese. And I'm not saying the privacy issue is there because it is Chinese, because I trust it more. But we have to acknowledge that at the moment, AI is the worst it will ever be. It's currently terrible compared to what it's going to be able to do in a few years' time. And having been a professional in tech for 27 years now, I've seen this cycle before. I've seen it come round, and I've seen, not very nasty, but some unpleasant things pop up because when people adopted new technology, they weren't risk averse enough. So you don't have to be terrified of it. Just pause and just think. There's a good bit of news here that these fears are real, and they are worth just pondering on. But if you can reconcile those fears and mitigate the risk or transfer the risk in some way, this is still a really, really good opportunity to make your businesses more profit and to make your working life potentially easier. So I mentioned about being strategic with AI. I'm not going to read all these out. So these slides are for you to refer back to afterwards. But I just want to give you the 5 main areas that are worth having a look at. You haven't got to do them all at once. I'm saying pick one. So automation. I'm sure most people here are familiar with tools like Zapier or If This Then That or Make.com or those things or N8N. The AI element of those is getting really, really good. And this is where you can save an incredible amount of money. If you've not seen tools like N8N or Zapier, is there are kind of data brokers there. If this thing happens over here, then make this thing happen over there. And this is one of the ways that my business has saved an incredible amount of time. Automation of things like meeting notes is obviously very good. So we're all used to seeing kind of Fireflies or Fathom, or there's loads of animal ones like Otter AI. We've seen them popping up in meetings, things. They are incredibly useful. I use them a lot for analyzing meetings that I've had. So I do training on this kind of thing. And after the training session, I'll use AI to analyze the transcript to make sure I didn't miss anything important, to look for any cues in the conversations that my mild neurodiversity might not make it very easy for me to understand during the session. So it's a very useful thing. I'm going to touch briefly on SEO. So we're now up to AI has, I think, 7% share of search. So the vast majority of people are still searching on Google, but that is going to change. 7% is a lot. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. The good news for anyone who's concentrated on SEO for their own websites is that it's now more important in the time of AI search than it ever was when Google were absolutely dominant. And the reason for that is all the AI tools rely on finding information on your website to be able to recommend your website and your business. Google relies about 40% on your website to find information out about you. And ChatGPT, for example, relies 80% on what you've put on your website. So it's now more important there. This is a bit of research done by SEMrush, who's one of the SEO companies that we use. It was done a few months ago, so it's probably a bit more than that. The agility and the pivoting, AI can be very, very good at ideation. So if you get stuck with things or you find yourself in a rut, asking a few questions can be really, really helpful. You can get feedback very quick, but it's worth bearing in mind if you're going to use any of the AI tools for content ideation or coming up with ideas. It's really important to remember that the way it works at the moment is it's going to give you the lowest common denominator. It's a beigeness. It's absorbed the world and it's giving you the safest bet. It's giving you the middle ground. So it's never going to be particularly exciting. It plays it very, very safe. We've got data-driven decisions there. This is where most of our clients are starting to use AI quite heavily now. It's just looking for patterns and things. If I'm honest, I'm not really sure how relevant this might be to creative industries. But if you're working with web building, for example, or you just want to learn things, then any system that you can get data out of, you can input into AI and ask it questions. So Google Analytics, for example, hands up who loves GA4, Jude. So Google Analytics GA4 is bewildering, even for people in the industry like Jude and myself who have worked with analytics for years. So I recommend you pull data out of it, just chuck it into the AI, ask questions that way. Crucial phrase, if you're going to do that, is just ask the AI you're working with to prove it. If it says something that looks a bit odd, just say prove it, or I don't believe you, or give me citations. And ChatGPT, for example, alarming number of times we'll go, do you know what? I absolutely made that up. So again, it's another example of not being afraid, but just being a little aware. A good way to think of this type of chat AI is like, it's an incredible. Actually, I'll ask, has anyone here got a teenage child? Yeah. So okay, so this is going to connect. Last time I said that in a room of 80 people, two people put their hands up, and I was like, "Oh man." So your teenager, who here's teenager is grumpy when you're not expecting them to be grumpy? So imagine AI as being like your teenage child. If it's never grumpy and it's always trying to be super helpful. Everyone remember Kevin and Perry from Yeah. So there's a brilliant episode of Kevin Perry on from Harry Enfield where Harry Enfield's character, I can't remember which one that is, kisses a girl at a party. And the next day he goes from being a grumpy teenager to being like the most helpful child on earth. That's basically what AI is without the kissing at parties, hopefully. It really, 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 really wants to help, but it has no concept and no experience. So, who's here's teenager will tell you something with complete confidence that to be absolute bullshit. Yeah, they'll say things like, "Of course, the American Civil War was started over peanuts," and you go, "Really?" And if you challenge it, they go, "It was." Well, AI doesn't do the grumpy bit, but it will just hallucinate things. So there we go. So the strategic approach, just find out what AI can do for you. It's an odd situation where there are so many unknowns. It can be hard to figure out what to use AI for if you haven't got the contextual information about what it can do. The last time I remember this kind of situation was about 1995. A friend of my family's had AOL, and it was the first time I'd sat down and seen the internet. And I can remember just going, "Well, what am I going to do?" It was so vast and so big. I didn't have a leaping in point. The difference between those dark ages of the internet and where we are with AI is you can get a bit meta with it. It's a bit Inception. Just ask AI how it can be helpful. Just tell it to ask you questions. Say, right, ask me questions one at a time until you can help me figure out how you can save me time. AI doesn't think, so I'm always a bit cautious um about how to speak to it because it's a thing. Who here swears when they're using AI? Who swears at their AI? Oh, I'm going to say it's my personal belief that that's a mistake. Not because of the robot apocalypse, but if you think about swearing in terms of sort of neuro linguistic programming and mindset and how you approach the world, you wouldn't swear at your apprentice, or maybe you would. I think getting frustrated with AI can have some really, really strange results. I've got two clients who use ChatGPT Pro, and at random, it will start replying to them in Welsh. And they are also the only two clients I know who I've witnessed swearing like a docker at AI. And I think that's not really sort of causality, but they're the only two people I know that do that, and they're the only two people who get yeah, ChatGPT thinks they're Welsh. I still don't really understand that. So if you have tinkered with AI, this isn't a pitch. This is just a slide I left on from when I gave this talk a few weeks ago. I'm here to help. We're all part of the TCC for the same reasons, to help each other out. So if any of you guys want to spend a little bit of time with me just to explore some of this, I've set up a framework that I run people through. It just takes half an hour. Framework I run people through just to ask a few questions about your business, just to see if I can help you find a way through. I did it yesterday for a business in Essex who sells shoes to ballroom dancing professionals. And what we've identified there, I'm not telling tales out of school, what we identified there is that they were doing a lot of things in a very, very, very old fashioned way. And we've already identified a couple of ways that they're going to save an incredible amount of time. So they go, if you want to have a chat with me, I would be happy to help you. There you go.
Thank you very much, Andrew. That was awesome. I knew it would be. You're good at that
It was
stuff.
long, wasn't it? Sorry, I meant to do it in like 10 minutes.
It was not 10, it was about 25, but we'll let you off. Does anyone have any questions for Andrew or comments about AI? What do you guys use it for? Your feelings on the subject. I'll start. Oh, Keith, go on then.
Thanks, Andrew. That was really interesting. Do you find, is there a different, depending on what you want to do you use different AI platforms depending on what you want to achieve? Some better than others at some things, but not others.
Kind of. They're all kind of neck and neck. And if one of them's edging ahead one day, then one of the other models will overtake it the day after. tend to use ChatGPT a lot because we've built loads of custom GPTs. So custom GPT is just where you set up the prompt beforehand, kind of, and you can train it. So, for example, I've got a custom GPT that I've uploaded books that I've written into. So if I'm writing content and I don't think I'm quite being myself, then I can check it against myself. I know that's a bit kind of seems a bit strange. We use Manus a lot, which I think might still be invite only at the moment. So if you want an invite, let me know. But the reason we use Manus increasingly is because it's agentic, so it does stuff. Oh, I meant to say before I finished the presentation, that presentation was made using Manus, and I left a couple of odd things in there for in case we had any graphic designers in here. So any of the designers in it, did any of you notice any oddities in that? Jen, go on, what did you spot? Because I bet it's not what I think it is.
Sorry, I was just trying to unmute myself. Yeah, there was a few missing word spaces, so words putting together. That was my main thing.
Yeah, there's a few widows as well, and
Yeah.
just odd little things. Gareth?
I wasn't sure if it was a style choice or not, but the numbers offset on the
Oh, yeah.
circles.
Again, a classic example, but it's a classic example of AI getting us nearly there. So that slide deck, I built this talk over a course of weeks by making notes. So I used Obsidian for note taking. So I ended up with just a lot of notes, and I was struggling to sort of get them in order. I don't normally use slides, but the people who booked me to speak a couple of weeks ago insisted on a slide presentation. So I just chucked the notes at Manus and said, look, I've got to give a talk. I don't like making slides. Can you do it for me? And it did. Everything in there was from my notes. It inferred a couple of things, like the being meta with it, but on the whole, it was pretty close. But if I was going to use that, I would fix it. I did fix it for the other group, but I thought, as I've got designers in here, I want to see if anyone spotted the weirdness.
Thanks, Andrew. I've got a quick follow-up question. With the AI platforms, are the free versions okay, or do you recommend that it's worth paying for the one that you like using?
I would say it's worth paying because you'll become familiar with the tool if you use the same one all the time. There is a platform called concierge.ai that you can pay for, and it gives you paid access to all the platforms. So we use that a bit just because they're all almost the same. But yeah, the paid ones, there is quite a difference. I think GPT now, you do get the pro features, but it's just limited. So you'll hit a hard stop where it says that you've done too much today, quit it or pay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I have a question that I heard on the radio yesterday. They were talking about it was a medical copywriter, a copywriter for the medical profession. And he was saying how a lot of the jobs for trainee medical copywriters were going because they were now using GPT to do it. The discussion was what happens when he gets to retirement age. There's no one below him that's learnt that trade to replace him when he retires. So who controls all of the robots beneath him? What happens? What happens when there's no one left to train?
My feeling at the moment is because AI is being seen as such panacea, seen as such this is going to fix everything. I think the same thing's going to happen with AI chat that happened with the web in about 2003, 2004. The bubble's going to burst. Something's going to happen, or lots of things are going to happen, and people are going to realize that if they did rush face first into these things, as for doing things like just getting rid of all the junior copywriters, humanity's going to become much more important. We're going to enter what I don't think I coined it, the age of authenticity. We can see it creeping in already. People now value individuality far more than they ever did before, and showing slightly flawed things is going to become more and more celebrated because we're all going to get better at spotting the difference between AI generated anything and human generated. That's why I left the weirdnesses in those slides, but I think we're all going to get better at it. The same way as that if someone's not a graphic designer, they still know what really sucks with graphic design. We're all programmed with these cues throughout our lives. So there's my guess anyway.
Cool, thank you. Any questions from anyone else? Comments? Go on, Jim.
I was just going to ask, because I don't use it a lot, and I don't really use it for work. I use it more for sort of outside personal stuff. So I actually wrote a rubbish book in lockdown, and I've been using it to help me make edits and make it better. And I'm kind of trusting this thing because I think it's making it better. But it also is weirdly nuanced in terms of how it talks to me. And is that something that is intentional, or is that just part of its learning?
Which one are you using?
ChatGPT.
They don't know what to do with it at the moment because it's become so almost needy and
Yeah.
so overly polite. They removed an update they put in a few weeks ago that was making it really sycophantic. The challenge we have in Britain is that a lot of these tools are trained using massive amounts of American data rather than British data. So one of the things I constantly have to tell ChatGPT is never use EM dashes. So the EM dash is valid in grammar. We just don't use it in Britain. But it's an American book writing thing. So yeah, the tone's weird. I really do recommend flipping between them. You've probably got paid access to other ones without knowing it, especially if you're with Microsoft or Google.
Okay.
Claude is really good. There's loads of them.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I'll give it another go.
So no, Jen, it's not just you. It is a bit kind of
Yeah, well, it's freaky.
Oh, you're so clever like that.
Yeah.
Never tells me that. Anyone else got any questions? Keith again?
Andrew, have you used AI for coding and not sort of content generation? Have you tried something technical, and how did you get on?
Very small bits. I'm not really a developer. I defer to Alex for that kind of thing. But I can look at code and know what it's doing. I've done it very, very gingerly. Matt, who works for me, has done it in a much bigger way, but he's like Alex. He's a career coder, so he can spot bad output. One of the things I often tell people is do stuff like that by all means, but you've got to be able to spot poor output. If you can tell the difference between a Mars bar and a dog shit, then you can probably use AI.
I thought it was going to turn us, it's called vibe coding, isn't it? I thought it was going to turn us all into coders because we can just tell it what we want and it'll code it.
Hilariously, that's how it's sold. But I've got a client who told me, he declared to me he was going to develop an app, and he's a great client. I worked with him for years, and I was like, "You're going to hit a point where you're going to tear your hair out and just wish you never started." And he went, "No, no, 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 no." I can't remember the one he used, and he built this app, and then he showed it to me, and I was like, "It's not an app; it's a website. You've built a website, and you've already got a website." I said, "No, it's an app because the AI told me." It's not an app, and he then found when he tried to get it into the app store, it was not going to happen. It's this kind of over willingness to be helpful. As I just remember, it's the over enthusiastic 12-year-old. So I tried vibe coding, something really basic, and I just got to the point where, yeah, as with all development, you get to the point where you don't have the experience or the context to know what the problem is to look for information on how to fix it.
Cool. Anyone else got any questions? I think I've got one more if nobody else has. Okay, it's to do with custom GPTs. I think you said you set one up for you've loaded your books into it. Could you give a couple of other examples of what you could use a custom GPT for?
Yeah, I'll give you a really clear one that we're finishing today. We're building one. I've noticed that the reports that we send our clients are quite boring. SEO reports are not thrilling. So what we're going to do instead now, we have a team meeting that we record, and we just have a natural conversation about things that we've done for each of our clients in the preceding month. I'll then create a custom GPT to analyze that and create short, concise reports in my tone,
Mm.
and then send to clients. And let me have a look, because hey, podcasting's another one. So any podcast that I do, whether it's my work one or Beat Motel, my music one, things like the show notes are written with AI. They're just custom GPTs that I've used that I drop the transcript into, because that kind of stuff doesn't really matter. I wouldn't use AI for creating content that goes on a website, but for like incidental bits, it's fine. And that saves me. That saves me a lot of time. Just think, I send out an email once a week with the filter. Does anyone get that? Anyone here receive that? Yeah. That takes me 7 minutes a week from start to finish, because I use a custom GPT that I built, and I use actually one of the best AI tools I use is something called Whisperflow, which is a dictation tool. So dictation on Macs sucks. You'll spend more time correcting it than you will actually using it. Whereas Whisperflow works much better because it understands the context of what you're doing. So for the filter email, I speak it, I say it out loud, drop the links in, then chuck it through a custom GPT, and then send it out. Yeah, 7 minutes it took yesterday.
Awesome, thank you. Keith?
Can I ask another one then, based on custom GPTs? Do you think, because you can use custom GPTs then to create AI chatbots, can't you, for a website? Do you think custom AI chatbots on a website are a good idea?
They're fantastic, but don't use GPT to do it, because it's all things to all people. It's the same reason all Microsoft products kind of suck, as they're trying to be perfect for everyone, which means they're perfect for no one. The one that I would use is Intercom, which has been around for quite a long time, but it's very, very, very good at learning your business. We've got a client, the client I mentioned earlier, who tried to make his own app. He's written 1,000 blog posts over the last 16 years of running his business, and because he's worked with us for a long time, he understands inbound marketing really, really well. So inbound marketing and SEO is essentially just a process of answering the questions your clients ask you on your website. This is why you see articles like 5 things you must know about. So we used Intercom and just said, look, go read the website and learn about the business. And we've been testing it really hard, and it is incredible. This is a dog-friendly business, and the website has so many dogs on it. And the language switcher, you have the little bit that switches it between some websites between French and English and whatever. It's got a pause that you can switch the whole website into dog language, and all the words just end up going woof, woof, woof. The number one question he gets asked, can I bring my dogs? So we identified that as, right, you don't need to be answering that. That's a really, really simple question. But yeah, Intercom learned so much else. It's really impressive. But yeah, GPT's fine, but don't use it for specific tasks. It's too much of a generalist. It'd be like asking me to do your plumbing. I'll fit the tap once, but you really don't want me messing around with your toilet.
Thank you.